fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Tuesday night funk no more. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp, mail it, send it. Welcome to the Sebring International Raceway located in Florida in the United States of America, which today hosts week 9 action of Just Send It here with all coverage on the Sim Speed Esports Network. And today our field driving the Mercedes-AMG GT3 around this Sebring, 5.7 kilometers in length. That's 3.5 miles depending on your units of choice. No different in terms of our competition this evening. It's going to be a 40-minute race. One competition caution, of course, which will spice up the action ever more. And we're expecting a pit stop as this car is fuel limited to 40%. So it'll be ever difficult to get this car beyond that 30-minute mark in terms of fuel. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth, welcome along. I am joined by the ever-brilliant Lachlan Mansell, who joins us again. Jay Kennedy behind the scenes in production will also join us for commentary too. And Lachlan, we head to Sebring. A very bumpy circuit is this raceway. And of course, associated with endurance racing, but the driver's going to face some ever-increasing challenges in these GT3s with the bumps.
Good evening to you, Jonathan. Good evening, Jay. Good evening, everyone. Great to be back on commentary for Just Send It this evening. And Sebring, formerly an airfield, now a concrete surfaced racetrack with a variety of different types.
Because it's 40 minutes coming up now. Now, Jay, the grid's going to be up on screen. We're still unsure, Jay, and when we were speaking to Trent Harrison, we're still unsure if this is a rolling or a standing start. Looks like a standing start, I believe.
Yep,
but we'll wait and confirm.
Yep, it does look like it's a standing start. Hello, everyone, and our apologies for the slight little technical issue we just had there. Yeah, looking forward to this race, and we'll quickly, as you said, run through the grid. But Josh Rogers, no surprise he's on pole. Jared Filsell, no surprise he's second. Shane Van Gisbergen, no surprise he's third. Ross Rizzo, doing a good job in fourth. Cooper Webster, Trent Thomas, Dominic Ferraris and Madison Down. The top 8 drivers we all expect to be right at the front of the field.
God, this might be one of the best grids we've ever had for Just Send It right now on screen. We'll cycle through the order. Final comments from you, Lachlan, before race start. Your man, Dylan O'Keefe, starts from the 8th row. He's going to be in a lot of trouble with a lot of traffic around him. He's right behind Richie Stanaway by a few positions.
Some other good drivers in the field as well. Justin Rugia, Steve Owen, Cooper Murray. These are all drivers with lots of real-world racing experience. But looks like we're just about ready for a race start.
The lights illuminate. And we go green from Sebring for 40 minutes of action. That's one car from the 2nd row. I think that looked like Ross Rizzo potentially not getting off the line at all. But here they head through the first corner. God, that's a mad scrambling field of Mercedes behind. And it looks all clean for the moment here as they head through the first sector. But this is where it starts to bottleneck.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack up the inside. Aggressive start from the Giz, who was second at the Bathurst 1000 on the weekend, and he makes contact with the number 47 car. He will go spinning. There will be cars diving left and right to take evasive action. I think the Giz has managed to get away with that, but unfortunately the car that he made contact with has been left parked on the side of the racetrack, and that is potentially an early contender for the award for the biggest failed send of the evening.
So, excuse me, it wasn't Ross Rizzo with a poor start. It was Van Gisbergen, who went nowhere off the line there at the beginning of the race. And now he finds himself in the 12th position for the moment as he heads through the middle part of the lap here through Collier. Oh, and a bit of argy-bargy behind for sure. Stanaway's had a good start. He's in the top 10, of course, Jay. But we watch the leaders here. I'm a bit confused. I think Rogers is leading. It's showing him as P3, Jay, but he's actually leading.
Yeah, he is. Blake Purdy's had an issue. He's actually gone the wrong way around the circuit and used the shorter circuit and come back around in the pits. Obviously got a black flag. So he's been marked as first, but he's definitely going to be last after his black flag. And also Nick Foster's already DNF from this race. So biggest mover already. We're seeing Andrew Collins up 10 positions. But Michael Rosenblast up 23 to start this race. That's incredible.
And look at the brilliant side of these Mercedes AMG GT3s heading towards the sunset, ironically, at Sunset Bend. This is Michael Rosenblatt.
Nice move down the inside. And Sunset Corner, it's the corner that's described with about a dozen different racing lines that you can take because it's a very unusual shaped corner. Whether you decide to take an early or a late apex very much depends on who you're battling against and what you're trying to achieve. A fast exit or a fast entry.
And unfortunately for Justin Rogier, he's officially out of the event. An early retirement with our, what was it, like a 55, 56 car grid already. We ride on board with Ross Rizzo. Now, Jay, Ross Rizzo is a driver who, if he puts his mind to it and he has enough time to practice, he's easily can be one of the top sim racers in Australia.
It's definitely one of the best GT races in Australia. We've seen 3-time winner of the Premier GT Series in Australia, the Sprint Series Australia. I've just noticed I'm going to cut away and we're going to get a replay because there's been a big incident between two of our pros and one of our regular top finishers. Steve Owen's been involved in an incident with Andrew Collins.
So let's look at this, Lachlan. Modem simulation replay. And it looks like it's through the first few corners.
So we'll have a look here. Oh, Andrew Collins getting out of shape, getting into the back of Steve Owen. That was... Oh, sorry, it was the other way around. It was actually Owen making contact with the back of Andrew Collins. So that's another nominee for the biggest failed send award of the evening.
Yeah, we definitely have our a multitude of awards that include the best send that's successful. There was another replay on screen and heavy whack into the barriers for Collins. So one award is the best send. It has to be successful, though. There's the worst failed delivery, Lachlan, and the best postie. So someone with the most places gained. Hard to see here on the opening lap who's got that. But I see Paul Nichols has gone from 48th to 23rd. That's a pretty good start.
That is a decent start, but...
wow. 2 moves around the outside at Sunset Bend. 2 cars.
He likes putting in the spectacular overtaking manoeuvres, Richie Stanaway, but just on Andrew Collins, I was going to make the comment that he's finished in the top 8 for the last 7 weeks in a row, including 3 podium finishes. But it looks like that run's going to come to an end, and we've got dramas here for Nick Coulson. A couple of cars going left and right, taking evasive action, and a couple diving into the pits as well.
Well, that could have ended in disaster had the cars rejoining not gotten out of the way. As we watch... I can't quite see who that is. It's always difficult trying to learn, Lachlan. 60 different new cars every week and 60 different new liveries, but we're just going to have to go with the overlays for now.
That's why it's a good thing having the subtitles up on screen that tells us who's in which car. Jared Philsell running in 2nd position, but under some pressure at the moment from Ross Rizzo. This is actually a pretty decent 3-way battle, and you've got Cooper Webster in that contest as well. Cooper Webster, a driver with plenty of real-life racing experience as well. He's one of the front runners in the Victorian Hyundai XL Racing Series, doing a good job in putting the pressure on the drivers in front.
And we ride on board with Webster, who's ever quick, Jay, isn't he, in the TCR? We've seen him race quite well in that car. Now takes his talents to the GT3, and it's really... it's a different beast, but it's still a tin top, and it still requires a similar sponsor, a similar driving style.
100%. And Cooper Webster as well became the youngest ever winner of V8 Scops at this circuit, so he's no stranger to being very, very aggressive. So just notice there's another big incident with a few of our contenders back in the field. Every time you're coming to me, we've got incidents, one of those being Nick Percat involved in this one.
Nick Percat is the modem simulation replay, and Percat's someone that... Lucky, I'm sure you're familiar with in the real racing world. And, God, that was, well, James Mackay, a few drivers just trying to barge their way through. And that's, whoa, that's a merry-go-round for Nick Percat.
Yeah, didn't have the best of runs in the Bathurst 1000 on the weekend either, so that's a bit of a disappointing exit there for Nick Percat, who once again has been caught up in an incident with nowhere to go and absolutely collected. His night will be done.
I don't think you need to throw to me anymore tonight, Jonathan, because every time you do, there's been a big incident. It's been incredible so far.
And back to Jay. No, I'm just joking. So, where are we in now? We're heading towards the hairpin. This is Dominic Ferraris, who ended up winning 2 weeks ago. You could say, Jay, we should bring the Ferrari back because Ferraris might have a chance. He won the race 2 weeks ago.
He's still doing pretty well, though. Currently P8, started in 7th. He's got a few big names around him. Have a look at that. The car with the 09, you can see that was the 9th position car at the start of the lap. That's SVG closing in behind. So to be battling with Madison Down and SVG, I don't think you'll be too stressed what car it is. To have a battle like that will be incredibly fun for him.
Yeah, most certainly. This is that battle we're watching here between Ferraris and SVG. Shane Van Gisbergen, after his poor start from the front row, trying to make amends for that here with just over half an hour left in this event. Now, with a fuel-limited car, Lachlan, we're expecting these drivers to pit around that. I mean, the pit window would open from the 30-minute mark to the 25-minute mark. That's in terms of time remaining. As long as they get it done before the pace car comes out, they should be okay.
So the fuel range is about 30 minutes, which means that the earliest that you can pit is with 30 minutes to go. The latest that you can pit is going to be without 10 minutes to go. But as we've seen in previous editions of Just Send It, the optimum strategy is generally to pit early, because if the safety car comes out and you haven't done your pit stop, the pit lane closes for the first lap while everyone forms up behind the safety car, and it severely disadvantages the cars that haven't done their stops yet. Yeah. So I think the early pit strategy is the way to go.
Oh, good send there from Shane Van Gisbergen straight up the inside of Ferraris at turn 1, and successful send as well. As Phil and Rizzo go side by side.
Well, Jared Philsell, who had a brilliant event in the Supercars E-Series the other week, now racing alongside Rizzo. Now Rizzo alongside Cooper Webster here for the 4th position. And for the 3rd position, I should say. This is for the final podium spot. Provisionally, they'll head through this hairpin. This is one of the best overtaking spots at Sebring. And still no winner out of this. Oh, an SVG behind's been taken out in the background. I saw a car flying. There it is. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done.
We'll definitely have to have a look at a replay of that one to find out what happened. Obviously, he was battling pretty intently at the time with Dominic Ferraris and also Madison Down. He's done that on his own.
Oh, no.
He's just outbraked himself, trying to go for a move there on Ferraris. He's got it all wrong, and like you say, that'll be his night over and out.
Left-hand wheels in the grass, trying to brake. Doesn't usually work too well.
Is he, was SVG the one who broke the champagne, or popped the champagne just by smacking it on the floor as well? So,
maybe he's still got a little bit in the system.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. We know SVG's a lot better than that. He actually won Monza, didn't he, SVG, for Just Send It? So, previous winner of this series. We ride on board with Richie Stanaway, previous member of Team Redline, one of the best sim racing teams of all time. And now Stanaway down the back of the pack. Was that him flicking his headlights, just trying to make his way through? And the Kiwi now has a lot of cars here. And look there, Lachlan, a multitude of lines through Sunset Bend, and a multitude of them work.
And this is really shaping up as a hot contest, the second down to about 7th position between this gaggle of cars. It's going to be a contest of who can get the best advantage from the slipstream, who can maintain their concentration, who can avoid making mistakes. And we're starting to get pit visitors now because we have reached that critical 30 minutes to go stage of the race. Richie Stanaway, the first car, dive in for a stop.
And apologies there, Trent Thomas, while you were speaking, had a huge moment. I don't think he got tapped by anybody.
He was 2 wheels in the grass again.
Yeah, so he had a couple of wheels dipped into the grass, much like Shane Van Gisbergen. It's cost him a bit of time. Now, a lot of drivers in the pit lane, like you said. Richie Stanaway, one of them. He's out and away here through the first sector. The only issue with this is Stanaway's okay because he has clear track here, Jay, but you don't want to pit into, I mean, if you're one of the leaders such as Josh Rogers, you don't want to pit and end up in traffic.
Well, I don't think Rogers has anything to worry about. He's going 3.5 seconds faster than everyone else in the field pretty much, except for Madison Down, so he's absolutely flying. But the likes of Phil Sell, Rizzo, that paddle pack that we were watching, really have to calculate it properly. Stanaway's done a good job, but now he's getting a little bit of traffic. There might be a little bit of banter going on between the two, or between he and the driver ahead, because that's Nick Percat just ahead, who's out of contention at the moment, and just in front of Percat is Paul Collins, who's going to give up the spot, and he's going to lose another one to Richie.
And there's a few drivers who are a long way down the field in terms of the pro drivers. So Matt Charter and Dylan O'Keefe, who are both racing in the Super 2 Series race at Bathurst on the weekend. They're towards the tail end of the top 40 at the moment. So both of those drivers have got some work to do. There's Dylan O'Keefe. He's currently in position 39. I think he was one of the drivers who got caught up in some of that brouhaha that we saw on the opening lap.
How was Bathurst? You got to experience working there in a different note, and a fan too, of course. You're a bit of both.
Yeah, so up there doing the on-track commentary for the ECB Super Utes and doing PR work for a few drivers, including Dylan O'Keefe and a few Carrera Cup and Toyota 86 Series competitors as well. So it was a good weekend. It was a busy weekend, but good to be back relaxing with some Tuesday night commentary here on Just Send It. And we saw there that Cooper Webster dived into the pit, so he's elected to go for that early pit stop strategy as well. As the battle continues, positions 2 and 3 at the moment, this is shaping up to be a battle that's going to go all the way to the checkered flag between Jared Filsell and Ross Rizzo.
Yeah, and that's another car exiting.
That's Cooper Webster exiting there, so he's come out just ahead of Stanaway.
Yeah, Webster importantly ahead of Stanaway. The car that's, well, Stanaway, I was about to say, the car that split at them was Michael Smith crossing, but now Stanaway's disposed of him, and he's ahead of the number 54 driver. But you're right, the battle for the lead's not even close. The problem for Rogers, much like Road Atlanta, he's going to have to
You'll get another black
safety
flag.
car. Yeah, well, maybe.
But
we
found out afterwards that was the reason why he pitted twice. Was they actually gave him a parody black flag because he was just too good.
Yeah, I was wondering why it wasn't a drive-through, because it would have gave it away if he just drove through, but it was an actual stop and go. But ironically as well, Lachlan, he's having to deal with his Supercars E-Series teammate of Filsell, first and second. This is a carbon copy of Mount Panorama for these guys a couple weeks ago.
10.5 seconds the lead, though, for Josh Rogers at the moment, and we've seen that he's been very successful in the Supercars E-Series so far as well, but he is absolutely driving away from the field. Just like in real life, when cars are battling ferociously for position, they do tend to slow one another down a fair bit, and that's what's happening with this Filsell and Rizzo battle at the moment. Rizzo right in the slipstream as they head down the main straight. Filsell taking the slightly wider approach line into turn number 1, but you can see that he runs wide on the exit. That will allow Rizzo back into the contest, and Madison Down and Trent Thomas both maintaining and watching brief in positions 4 and 5 as well. Oh, down the inside, he had a big think about it there. Ross Rizzo on Jared Filsell. There wasn't quite space there for him to get the move done. That checked up his momentum on the exit. That's going to give Madison Down the opportunity. Here comes Madison Down. Can he get down the inside? Yes, he can. Nice move from car number 77. And he might actually gain 2 spots here. They'll go side by side on the exit.
Well, you can tell how much Filsell's practiced. 0 laps, because he's absolutely struggling. Never seen Filsell drive like this before. And Madison Down could pick off 2 drivers here through the middle sector at Sebring. Here they head through turn 10. And now through 11 at Collier. They're still alongside each other. The headlights flicker for Madison Down. He wants the position as they head through Tower, turn 13. Through the right-hander. Oh, and he gets a bit tail-happy, does Madison Down. And he'll have to concede that spot yet again here to Ross Rizzo.
Great racing between those drivers, side by side for multiple corners in a row, giving each other just enough respect and just enough room to make sure that they could get through the corners without going off the track. And a mistake for Ross Rizzo as he runs a little bit wide. And up the inside once again, he will go on Jared Filsell. They'll be side by side again. This is a cracking battle between these competitors.
Who's going to lead out into Sunset Bend? Just bleed off the brakes heading into the corner. How about the number 87 there of Trent Thomas? Brilliant pass. Now, this is a good opportunity to enter the pit lane, Trent. He doesn't opt for it. And they're going to have to form up here on the main stretch. And they'll begin Yet another lap here. It'll be lap 8 this time round, Lachlan, and 2 by 2 they go.
You know, if I was in this battle, I'd seriously think about getting out of it because they are slowing each other down with all of this dicing for position. It's great to watch. It's thoroughly entertaining and we're thoroughly enjoying it. But while this is all going on, they are losing bulk time to the race leader, Josh Rogers, who now leads this race by almost 15 seconds. I reckon you'd be better off coming into the pits, taking your stop, getting yourself out of the battle, and putting yourself into a position where you can actually set clean lap times.
Now, the problem with that, as the pace car comes out, is you're right, you're correct there, Lachlan, but it's just ended Tuesday night. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to battle away.
Yeah, but their strategy's just been blown because the safety car has come out. So all of the drivers who have not yet stopped are going to be disadvantaged. Just having a look at the timing to see who the highest placed driver is who has done a pit stop, and I think you'll find it's Cooper Webster in 9th position ahead of Richie Stanaway and then Craig Edwards. So Michael Healy's done a pit stop as well. So once again, this appearance from the safety car is going to completely change the race positions.
Exactly, and Jay, we saw this at Monza, didn't we, earlier in the season? Which I think was it Scott McLaughlin at the time who was absolutely dominating the event, but just didn't make that pit stop early enough.
I think a few of the drivers probably haven't thought too much about it. I reckon those guys that were in that battle there hadn't even considered about when they were going to make that pit stop. They were just too enthralled in their battle, which, in a way, I was actually a little bit disappointed that Richie Stanaway didn't continue on in the fight. But he's got himself in a good spot here. He sort of looked like he's been saving tyres a little bit looking at his lap times. So he might have a real strong, hard lunge at the end of this race. But, yeah, strategy for a lot of these drivers, I don't think anyone's really thought about strategy. They're just going out racing. And when they decide to pit, they'll just jump in at some random point. I don't think there's any more to it than that.
Yep, and there's the pace car picking up Rogers officially. So now this might be a good time to look at our past winners of the series, of course. Now, we know last week we had a great race in the Formula Renaults over at Phillip Island. But for 8 weeks this time around, we began all the way at Mid-Ohio. And was it Rogers who won Mid-Ohio? We'll have the graphic up in just a moment's time.
I actually do have the list here sitting on my computer in front of me of all of the different winners from all of the different rounds, so I can bring those to you, but you're 100% right there, Jonathan. It was Josh Rogers who got the win at Mid-Ohio. That was in the BMW M8 GTE car. Then Jared Filsell took the win at Spa in the Indy cars. We then went to Monza, where the field were in Audi R8. It was Shane Van Gisbergen who was victorious on that occasion. Mazda MX-5s at Barcelona. That was an entertaining event. Dean O'Brien took the victory there after a very close fight with a couple of other contenders. Cody Birch took the win in the Aston Martin at Road America. The Audi TCR car at Bathurst, that was taken out by Thomas Hinds after a cracking battle with Job Stewart that went right down to the last lap. And then Dominic Ferraris was victorious in the Ferrari GT3 at Road Atlanta. And it was Blake Purdy with the last lap overtaking manoeuvre on Andrew Collins, who took the win last week in the Formula Renault at Phillip Island.
Yeah, and apologies, I had some tech issues on my end, so I couldn't see the graphics, so handed it over to Lachlan, who wonderfully went through that. And yeah, of course, we had no multiple winners.
No.
Lachlan.
8 different winners from the first 8 rounds, and you would have to say that Josh Rogers looks likely at probably being the best chance to become our first double winner, but he got a drive-through penalty for being just too fast a couple of weeks ago, and this week it looks like he's been caught out by the safety car.
Who's that just driving through the grass right now? They're in position 3. Yeah, it's Jared Filsell. Filsell just mowing the lawn here at Sebring at this old airfield. Oh, and he's almost spun. I don't know if he's doing that deliberately. I think he's doing it deliberately. Oh. Filsell there, Jay, just making our day a little bit more interesting. Not that it needed
Did he need
spicing up.
He's got an enthralling battle going on that will probably have Ferraris and Postlethwaite in amongst it now too. And those guys are going to have a fair bit of work to do to catch up to Cooper Webster and Richie Stanaway as well. Michael Healy in a great spot. Craig Edwards, though, we said had pitted already. He might have to come in for another stop because he did have to stop under that first lap after the issues on that first lap that we didn't quite get on screen. But yeah.
unless you can
busy
save
pit lane now.
fuel. Yeah, it's gonna be a pit party for sure. As we see our virtual flag man.
We'll do a rotator cuff keeping that up.
Oh mate, well that's a torn labrum exactly. Shoulder surgery at its finest coming up for him. And that's a huge pit party here at Sebring, and we're going to have at least 20 to 30 cars dive in who haven't made their pit stop, and you can see the cars just don't stop coming into the shot.
So at Bathurst, they sometimes have problems with double stacking, but I reckon that here at Sebring, we're going to have triple or even quadruple stacking.
Thank God, yeah. Thank God in sim racing, everyone's got their own pit bait. And is Rogers still in his pit box? I'm just trying to look at this. He's still in his box. Rogers hasn't left his box at all. Everybody's beating him right now.
He's actually getting tyres. He's taking tyres. No one else has taken them, but he is taking tyres on that car. You can see it in the air. So he's taking tyres on board that car.
And someone's... who's that trying to reverse through him? Somebody just trying to have a bit of fun there. But right now, we'll update you on the order. So, Lachlan, it looks like Webster from Stanaway, as we predicted. Rogers out and away with fresh tyres. Rogers is all the way down now in the 28th position, but Michael Healy joins him in third.
So, as we expected, this has completely shaken up the order. So it's Webster, Stanaway and Healy. Jack Widders has been another very consistent performer in the Just Ended series in fourth, ahead of Michael Rosenblatt. Job Stewart up to sixth, ahead of Nick Coulson. Ross Rizzo, who didn't take tyres, eighth ahead of Trent Thomas. And then Josh Purween rounding out our top 10 at this stage.
And the pace car lights are out. We're going to go green this lap. So Webster will be followed by Richie Stanaway. And Jay, if you remember, Richie Stanaway, like I mentioned before, was a member of Team Redline for many years and got to learn from Gregor Hutu, the greatest sim racer of all time, got to be teammates with a lot of talented drivers there, and won one of the toughest iRacing series in existence, the Road Pro Series, which allows you to obtain a license to the World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, it was when he had his back injury from that huge crash at Spa. He basically lived on iRacing, and we saw him in a large number of our iRacing V8 series races back in 2012 and 2013. And of course, as you said, was racing in Team Redline. He was very, very competitive at that stage. And now slowly getting back into sim racing now that he's back in the Australia-New Zealand region again. So it's good to see him back out there. And as you said, very, very good driver and very, very accomplished racing with Team Redline, which, ironically, Shane Van Gisbergen is now a part of.
Yeah, exactly. Van Gisbergen testing out with... I've seen him in a few nights with Max Verstappen and, of course, famous Team Redline driver Atze Kirchhoff. Kirchhoff also responsible for the training of Verstappen back in F3 on the Sims. Kirchhoff also, in my opinion, one of the best sim racers of all time too. And that's how much talent we have here, Lachlan. Before we go green, there's a lot of talent out there in the field. The pace car will pull in soon, but look at the top 10. Even though most of our lead battles have gone down the order, the top 10 still ever talented.
Certainly is. You've got a great combination of drivers with real life and virtual racing experience. So this is going to be a very high quality and very entertaining battle to the end. And we've got some very fast drivers coming through from a bit further back in the pack, including Josh Rogers, who will be charging hard on fresh tyres. Let's do it. A quarter of an hour remaining in this race, and it's time to just send it for the sprint to the checkered flag.
And Webster floors it. There's already an incident at the back of the pack there. That included, I think, Jack Widders. Oh, and it's caused turmoil with everybody trying to avoid the incident as the green flag waved. Oh, no. That's going to be on iRacing out of context for sure. And Lachlan, I mean, what was that? Just on the gas? A bit too hot, I guess.
It looks like it, or it could have been that there was a bit of overlap as they came up to the start-finish line. We'll have to check it out on the replay to work out exactly what happened. But I think there are a few people who are coming into the pits as well. So, yep, just completely misjudged it. And unfortunately, we've ended up with a couple of cars parked perpendicular to the racing line, and that has caused absolute pandemonium for the rest of the field coming through.
Wow, jeez, it's not something to laugh at, Jay. I think because it's just sended, it's a bit lighthearted.
I think we can laugh when it's just sended, but if it was another series, we'd be absolutely horrified. But because it's just send it, well, we sort of expect it, don't we?
Oh, man. I'm sure a few drivers will be annoyed with that, but a few will find the lighter side of it. Remember the crash at Barcelona, Jay? It was on, I think it was on iRating out of context. Oh, and there's more battles going on here. There's a number 30 of Job Stewart turned around and he's been collected.
And he was hit by Jared Filsell.
I was just about to say, yeah, it was a failed send from Jared Filsell that caused Job Stewart to get turned around. So, going back to the replay of this one from Jared Filsell's perspective, he came from a long way back. That was a rapidly diminishing hole. I don't think there was space there. And unfortunately, he's made contact with Job Stewart.
And there's Filsell, yeah. He was, you can tell he's going for the win. He's trying to send it, but that was your modem simulation replay, and it was a poor move there by Jared. Something he won't pull in the books in a more official series for sure, as we watch Rizzo versus Healy here. And Rizzo, decent run here on Healy as he crosses the line. He began the lap in 7th. You can see now up into 4th.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be hard work for us to come up for winner of the biggest failed send award, isn't it? Speaking of which, Ross Rizzo is starting to get a little bit physical as he just barges his way through. Just like Martinsville in NASCAR, isn't it? Bump and run. Madison down also now behind Phil Sell. Wouldn't mind seeing Madison give Phil Sell a bump and run out of just had a bit of fun here with just over 12 minutes remaining. Here they head to the hairpin. They're working together, aren't they? Well, Madison down is letting Jared Filsell do all the hard work for him. Filsell's the one who's been aggressive. Madison Down's just sitting behind and following him through it. They fire down the inside of Rosenblatt in the number 46 car. So every move that Filsell's made, Madison Down's been able to follow him straight past.
Because they know the hungry Josh Rogers is already into 13th. He's already up 10 spots here from the restart, and he's rapidly clawing them through. And where is he? Through the middle sector now. We're watching him on screen. But Rogers now, do you think he can do it?
Well, he's got serious pace, and obviously he does have the advantage of fresh tyres. So what have we got? 11, almost 12 minutes to go. No reason why he can't. He is absolutely carving his way through the field at the moment.
And another one. Where's DJ Khaled when you need him? As he heads through straight past. That was Nick Coulson in the 13th position. Nick Coulson began this lap in 11th. He started the race in 39th. Now, Michael Rosenblatt, the driver you saw before, who was forced out of the way by Phil Sell and down, he started the race from 44th as we ride on board with Coulson here through Sunset Bend. And, well, that's a nice switchback for sure.
Side by side back onto the main straight. And that is Nick Coulson and Matt Morris battling for position. Coulson might just about stay ahead. He does as they head into the long sweeping left-hander at turn 1. Bit of drama in the background there with another slow car. Michael Rosenblatt, who started this race way down the order, had good pit strategy, worked his way into the top 10, now starting to lose places to some of those faster cars that weren't on the optimum pit strategy.
Yeah, and this is Rogers now trying to make his way past Edwards. So let's have a look if he can get it done into turn 7, the hairpin here at Sebring. I'll tell you what, though, Josh Rogers is too respectful for for a Tuesday night here. He has to dive bomb his way, just like Phil Sell and Down did earlier.
I think he's forgotten the name of the series, hasn't he? It's not let's play nicely, it's just send it. Have a go, Rogers. Get in there. He's actually losing time to the leader, interestingly, which I was surprised to see. He's actually lost about 3 or 4 tenths to Cooper Webster on this lap. Webster just set his fastest lap of the race.
And don't forget, anyway, Lachlan, I mean, Webster was staying within the clutches of the leaders. He just made that pit stop and was able to obtain the track position before the pace car came out.
Shows what you can do with clear track too, doesn't it? So now he's not embroiled in any battles and he's able to just put his head down and drive the car to its full potential. He's punching out some very handsome lap time. Josh Rogers now starting to hit what we describe as the brick wall. When you're down the order, it's easy to get past the slower cars, but the further forward you move, the harder it gets to make up positions. Bit of bump drafting.
I love it. Bit of 0x bump drafting. Why not? Oh, and Rogers there didn't know where to go. Opted to stay clean. That's the number 8 of Craig Edwards that he's bump drafting. And I believe ahead of him here, maybe Josh Perwin in the number 38. No, that's Michael Rosenblatt, excuse me. Rosenblatt's being picked off here ever quickly.
So Rosenblatt loses a couple more spots as both Edwards and Rogers go through. So Josh Rogers back up inside the top 10.
And through this ever tight first sector is Rogers. So while that takes place, Stanaway is dropped to 1.7 seconds behind Cooper Webster in the lead. It looks like Stanaway is slowly slipping away from a lead advantage as we watch Rogers here still in a battle with that 9th place driver of Craig Edwards, and he finally makes his way through.
That'll be a relief for Josh Rogers because now he's got some clear track to be able to punch out quick laps and hunt down the cars ahead of him, and it also makes him a bit vulnerable to getting caught up in some of the carnage that we've seen in this race.
Yeah, so Phil Sell, looking at the gaps here, Jay, what is he, 3/10 behind Thomas? Phil Sell is, I think Webster's got it, to be honest with you, Jay.
Yeah,
I think he's
so
really,
too.
yeah.
It was 9.2 seconds at the moment. We've got 4.5 laps left. He needs to do laps 2.5 seconds quicker. I just see Jack Hodder's facing the wrong direction. You've done it again. That's 3 in a row tonight. But yeah, Rogers, I can't see him making up 2.5 odd seconds a lap in the next 4 laps. That'd be incredible pace. He'd have to do 1 minute 55 lap times. While Rogers is good, I don't think he's that good. As Ross Rizzo's just lost 2 spots with the slowdown penalty through Le Mans and thrown away a potential podium. It's on between Thomas and Phil Sell now.
That came at the worst time for Ross Rizzo. Now, the only thing that Phil Sell should do here, Jay, is take the Blake Purdy line and cut half the track. Remember on the opening lap?
Yep, he could do that. It hasn't worked out too well for Purdy, though. He's actually been disqualified from the race in the end, so probably had an issue with the black flag or a couple, and been disqualified, so he's now out of the race. But Trent Thomas is always very, very competitive in these GT cars, so you can never discount him from a race that involves a GT3 or a GTE. And Trent Thomas, Fusion Sim Racing, formerly of Fusion Sim Racing, now of Trick Sim Sports. Very, very quick driver. One of the lead teams in the AusNZ community for GTE racing and GT3 racing. So we'll expect him to be always there in this sort of format.
Does Ross Rizzo drive for Trick Sim Sports as well?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So Ross, of course, who I remember earlier in the year in Scops, Ross just kept finishing, 41st when he was trying to make top split in Scops, every week.
Last year as well, I think he won 3 second split races in V8 Scops last year to get automatically promoted into the main split. He found that was the easiest way for him. Probably one of the best overtakers we have in Australia and New Zealand is Ross Rizzo. Just knows how to position himself in the right spot. One of the best fuel savers as well. And of course, you can hear him and his amazing fuel saving strategies and thoughts on AOSC broadcasts here on SimSpeed on Friday nights.
Yeah, brilliant commentator is Ross Rizzo. Welcome to the party here at the SimSpeed Esports Network. So now, 5 minutes to go, Lachlan. Anything to note here towards the end of this race? I feel like we've got the lead under wraps with Cooper Webster. I feel like Phil Sell's been sort of halted in terms of his progress. I don't know if you'll catch Stanaway here towards the end of the event. Rogers has got too much time to make up on Ferraris. I guess the pace cars really, it's sort of not as good as we expected this round.
It's just settled down a bit, hasn't it? Just having a look at some of the lap times, Josh Rogers is still the fastest driver on the racetrack. His last time around was 1 minute 56.9. All of the other key contenders were in the 57, so he does have pace, but he just doesn't have the track position at the moment, and that's the problem for him. He might have the opportunity to catch up to the back of Dominic Ferraris and Michael Haley and maybe get past them, but I don't see him progressing any further than probably 7th or 8th position before we get to the end of this race. And Cooper Webster just doing a really solid job there in the race lead. Since the safety car restart, he's just eased out the margin over Richie Stanaway. It's not massively quicker than Stanaway. The margin is out to 2.2 seconds, so the pendulum is starting to swing the way of Cooper Webster in terms of the overall victory for this race.
And that was Ferraris having a look at Healy here through the hairpin at turn 7, the Sebring International Raceway. Of course, with less than 5 minutes remaining, thanks to our partners at the Hype Project, Wolfchester, Vantage Freight, GB Galvanizing, Simworks, and of course, JAC Technologies. Check them out, of course. You can see their logos at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And, of course, follow the series at facebook.com/justsenditsimracing.
Also on
Josh
Instagram
Rogers
as well.
on the attack.
Thought I'd better get that plug in there, sorry. Go back.
Yeah,
it
they
is.
are now on Instagram. So Josh Rogers behind Dominic Ferraris, who's also battling with Michael Healy. And when Josh Rogers is behind you, you know about it. He has a way of intimidating, and he has a way of placing his car in exactly the right position. Here he goes up the inside. Can he get the job done? They'll run side by side. Good defence there from Dominic Ferraris. He's going to try and hang tough and hold out Josh Rogers, who's going to break away when they get into the braking zone for the next corner. Up to 6th gear for Josh Rogers. Swings into the right-hander, and he will pick up another position.
Rogers' racecraft here, Lachlan, reminds me of like an early Lewis Hamilton from 07. You know, back in when he still had his karting mojo before he turned into this F1 sort of style he's got now. And it reminds me a little bit of Max Verstappen in his early days. You know, it's very clean. It's like a karter's type of racecraft. It's stuff that works in karting but doesn't often work in like GT cars or cars, for example.
Well, interestingly enough, before he became the sim racing champion that he is now, Josh was actually a former go-kart competitor, so maybe there is a bit of his karting style still left in his sim racing technique as well.
I remember speaking to Dane Moranjay as we watch a battle here between Stanaway and Phil Sell. Well, I'll
Job
talk
Stewart's
about
got
that
in the
later.
middle
There's
of
a
it
car
too.
splitting them.
Yeah, Job Stewart's decided to get in the middle.
He's in a very talented sandwich, is Job Stewart. I think Phil Sell's going to... Is he trying to defend you, Job Stewart? No. He thinks better of it. But I remember Dane Warrenjay talking to me saying, like, he's been karting his whole life, but he's had more real-life opportunities in racing through sim racing, ironically, than he has through his karting.
Yeah, well, of course, he won the second VSR challenge that we had at PAX last year, and that gave him an opportunity to test drive a Formula 4 at Winton. He and Dylan Shepard, and both actually did a really, really good job and impressed at those test days. So they're actually quicker than a couple of the coaches that they had there that day, which is incredible. Phil Sell looks so strong as Healy's around in the background.
Yeah, I was watching that off screen. Excuse me. So I got a bit too excited there. Ferraris just punted Healy. Here's the modem simulation replay. What's happened here? Oh, I mean, Lachlan, what do you think about that? That's hard to judge.
Well, they've been battling quite closely for a number of laps, and a bit of six of one, half a dozen of the other, wasn't it, heading into that one? Another candidate for biggest failed send, though. Had 20 of them tonight.
The strange line from Healy, I think that's caught Ferraris off, because Healy, you would think, would have just stuck behind Rogers there. No way he would have been able to pass, but he looked like he was going to try and make a late lunge, and that's caught out Ferraris. So yeah, I'm glad I'm not in race control. Those are the ones that I'm happy to sit in a commentary box for and not in race control for.
Jared Phil Sell just ahead of Job Stewart. Now, Job Stewart is a lap down, so Job Stewart needs to just behave himself here and not try and get involved in this battle. We saw a couple of weeks ago at Bathurst that Dylan O'Keefe got taken out of the podium position by a lapped car, which he was pretty annoyed about afterwards, as you could imagine, in the TCR car at Bathurst. Couldn't complain too much about it, though, because the car that took him out was actually one of his real-life racing sponsors.
Oh. Well, I
was a
guess
good
that's
takeout
a
too.
bonus. Yeah, I think you should get a bonus for that. Free sponsorship the next year. Oh, and here's Phil Sell trying to edge his way past Richie Stanaway, former GP2 driver. He's currently racing here in the sim racing universe, trying to claim a result in Just Send It, which will fund the rest of his racing career. No, of course not. But it's going to be a lovely final lap for him if he can keep this second position ahead of Phil Sell. But all eyes will be on Webster. I'll tell you what, I take that back. I'm going to keep one eye on Webster, one eye on the battle behind. Stanaway. Looks like Hamilton at Malaysia 2010, just trying to break the toe here from Vitaly Petrov. And Phil Sell opts for the send. He punts him out of the way. Bump and run like Martinsville. That looks like Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring, and it's going to be a drag race to the line for your final top 5 positions. It's unofficial, Lachlan, but I don't even know who ended out on top.
I think you'll find that Stanaway's actually managed to hold on to second place there. So Richie Stanaway, he got punted by Phil Sell, but he kept the boot into it, took a really wide line out of that final sunset corner, managed to keep it on the tarmac or the concrete, and managed to hold on to second position. Great save from the Kiwi.
Wow, that's definitely one of the greatest finishes I've ever seen in sim racing. And unfortunately, it was for positions 2 to 5 and not position 1. But nevertheless, though, that was your modem simulation replay. This is your winner, Jay, and it was Cooper Webster, who, I mean, he nailed the strategy perfectly. You couple that with talent, you get race victory.
100%, and this is becoming a bit of a fortress here for Cooper Webster. He's fallen in love with Sebring, of course, as I said before. Won his first ever race in V8 Scops last year at this circuit to become the youngest ever winner in V8 Scops at that time. Now has won another one, probably more prestigious than V8 Scops. Maybe not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's almost there. Still have a few cars finishing here around this long lap around Sebring, just under 2 minutes. But Lachlan, what do you think about the? I mean, I tell you what, though, I don't mind Stanaway sort of swerving like that. You know, it's all in a bit of fun. I would have done the same, to be honest with you. And Phil Sell returns the favor with a punt and run. All respectful, but disrespectful.
Well, we know that the stewards for Just Send It are pretty lenient within reason, so I don't think they'll look too closely at that one. In the end, I think it was just a good battle between two guys having fun in the run to the checkered flag. There's the tap from Phil Sell. How's the drift from Richie?
Oh, lovely by Stanaway.
Drifting a GT3 car through the final corner. Good thing that Job Stewart was a lap down, because he would have actually passed both of those drivers for position on the run to the line if he'd been on the lead lap. And Ross Rizzo desperately unlucky to miss out on overtaking Phil Sell in the run to the checkered flag.
Oh, man. Here's the replay of that finish once more here. I'll tell you what, that was a brilliant save by Stanaway there. Just wonderful car control. And I would have given a penalty, Lachlan, to Phil Sell if he didn't punt Stanaway after all that swerving. Would have been the opposite.
So
anyway,
here's confirmation of the unofficial results. So Cooper Webster becomes our 9th different Just Send It winner from the 9 weeks that we've had. Richie Stanaway and Jared Phil Sell your podium. Then it's Ross Rizzo ahead of Trent Thomas, Madison down, Josh Rogers getting back up to 7th position after that charge on fresh tyres after the pit stop, and Craig Edwards completing your top 8.
Definitely. And fastest lap of the race. Earlier on to Rogers on lap 2 when he had that clear track. You can see Ferraris and Morris rounding out the top 10. Down the back end of the order. Andre Borrell ended up top 15. Andre Borrell there. Brilliant result for him. Partner, of course, of the series. Doing a good job there, of course. Trent Harrison, where did he end up? Good old Trent Harrison. 22nd. 49 seconds off the lead. I'll give him that. Reese Lowe ended up 24th at the end of the day. Michael Smith crossing. Remember, he was involved in some battles there with Stanaway earlier on. Ended up coming home in 18th. We'll cycle through the order to the next page.
Andrew Collins all the way down in 26th. That's about the worst result that he's had, yeah. Andrew Collins.
Yeah, and how about Glenn Wood too? I mean, Glenn Wood's obviously in this for a bit of fun, but I think we definitely expect better from him for sure. But for Glenn Wood, he's hopefully enjoyed himself. He was a couple of laps down.
Jay, I'll tell you what, the Super 2 drivers didn't have a great night. Matt Charter 34th and Dylan O'Keefe 36th. They'll both be a bit disappointed with that, as will Nick Percat finishing down in 38th position.
Yeah, does Nick Percat still race for BJR, of course?
He does, yes.
Yeah, so Nick Percat is... well, I'll tell you what, I hope Brad Jones isn't watching this one.
Out of our
I hope Red Bull's not watching SVG.
Our supercars and Super 2 drivers, there's 5 running and only one of them finished and they got a podium.
Yeah, lovely stuff from them. SVG. What happened to Shane again, Jay? There's so many cars.
He went straight ahead at under brakes and nearly took out Ferraris with his 2 left wheels in the dirt.
Yeah, I remember that now. And that was the hairpin at turn 7. Ruggia, an earlier, unfortunate earlier retirement in this event. Mitch McLeod joined him, of course, earlier on. Nick Foster the same. And that was our field there. 56 cars racing here for Just Send It.
Good to
Now,
see Mick Ritter, the team owner from Sonic Motor Racing Services, having run as well.
Oh, no, yeah, lovely. Okay, and Sonic Motor Racing Services racing in Formula Ford, I believe. Plenty of other series, of course, too.
And Porsche Carrera Cup as well, and Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge. So very experienced outfit and has had a lot of success, particularly in Formula Ford, where they've won the national championship every year since 2016.
Well, what we'll do is, before we wrap up, we're going to take our lessons learnt from this event, Lachlan, and again from Sebring. I'm not sure how much, I'm not sure what we learned that was new, apart from get your pit stop done before the pace car comes out.
Well, I think we already probably learned that in previous weeks, didn't we? But the thing that I learned from that one is that Josh Rogers is just a freak when it comes to sim racing. It doesn't matter what setbacks he endures, he always has a way of fighting back with storming pace and brilliant overtaking manoeuvres.
And anything to plug, Lachlan? Where will you be at in the next few weeks for commentary and work?
So I'm at Wakefield Park this coming weekend for the penultimate round of the Australian Motor Racing Series. And then, hopefully back on deck next Tuesday evening for the next edition of Just Send It.
And Jay, we have quite an abundance of broadcasts coming up, of course. We have TCR on Thursday, which I'll hopefully be covering. I won't confirm at mid-broadcast this time. And V8 Scops coming up in about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, V8 Scots returns in a couple of weeks. You go to Silverstone for one of, I'm pretty sure Silverstone's next. There's so much going on, I've sort of forgotten. We've got OEC this weekend as well, which will be the 8 hours at Le Mans for the final round of that championship. And on Friday night too, we've got another Enduro, that being AOSC at Imola. And next Monday night as well, V8's return to Phillip Island, which is always one of the biggest races we have in the iRacing V8 calendar.
Yeah, Phillip Island, such an illustrious circuit. And like I said, one of the best commentary booths out there in the world of motorsport, of course. I love it. It's definitely a bit of a breather compared to some other circuits we have in Victoria, but it's time to wrap up here from the commentary booth, the virtual commentary booth, which is ever so cozy in sim racing. And the magnificent talent you saw out here today will be racing again for the next race on the 22nd of October. That will be in a week's time for 40 minutes around a track and car combination that will be revealed, of course, 24 hours before the day of the event, around Monday night. So stay tuned on Just Send It's pages, of course. Thanks to our sponsors, of course. We plugged them all before, and there they are on screen. Don't forget to follow the series on Facebook and Instagram. Next week, we'll host week 10 of Just Send It. It will be broadcasted on the SimSpeed Esports Network. Visit the SimSpeed Esports Network website for more information on upcoming events, of course. Thanks for joining us once more. From myself, Jonathan Simon, Lachlan Mansell alongside myself, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes in production and commentary. This has been a SimSpeed TV presentation. Our winner today, Cooper Webster, well-deserved. And we say so long from Florida in the United States of America, virtually.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?